So a lot of stuff came out. I didn't talk. I've been dealing with some stuff, and a lot of the videos that have been coming out has been gracefully. I've had Steve and a few of my other team members here at MVNG have kind of picked up slack where I fell off, right? Because I've been dealing with some stuff, personal stuff, but I stay on the pulse. I try to stay on the pulse of what's going on in my community, and I love Dungeons and Dragons. I actually love tabletop role playing in general. It's a great exercise in just building friendships with people. A lot of my friends I've met through tabletop role playing systems, and I think it's a great system. It's a great hobby. As for me, because of where I live and my community itself, being from New York, I've only seen it as an inclusive device and never as kind of something gatekept. And I know other people have had the opposite. But for me, it's always been inclusive. A lot of my friends from all different walks of life have always come to my table, and we've always played and always had a good time playing. With that being said, there was the Creator Summit that came out a few weeks ago. A lot of YouTubers and a lot of community voices got to go to Wizards of the Coast and see and talk to the creators that are working on the current edition of Dungeons and Dragons and the future edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and see everything. And a lot of things came out, right? A lot of things came out. It was kind of like a dumpster fire. They didn't really have answers for questions, and they just kind of wanted to show off their VTT and get that information out there to the creators. And the creators were like, well, we have these other questions, and where's it going here? And they were like, well, we really don't have answers. And then today there was the whole thing about them dropping the half races or the half species, because first and foremost, let me put it out there, I'm not mad about it. This actually has nothing to do with that half species concept stuff. The way they wrote D&D 1, if you look at the stuff they put forward, they basically laid out that you could play any mix of culture, lineage, species, whatever, for the stuff that they had put out. And they already showed that they were removing the half orc, half elf. It was kind of written like that. Other systems that I like greatly have removed that or have other systems in place to allow that to happen. Pathfinder 2nd edition does have half orc, half elf in it, but they also have other things that you can attach to it, like a tiefling and Aasimar. Those are all half combinations, right? And you could put them to anything, right? So you could be a dwarf, half orc, half dwarf. And Fantasy Age, which I was going to do a review about, came out with their second edition, or their second edition came out, yeah, more or less. And in Fantasy Age, they already had that written into the rules, like how to play half something. It's been out there. I'm not mad about that. I don't care about that. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk to everyone about, and hopefully my voice just starts this conversation, and I want other people to start listening and seeing what's coming out. So I've been here since the old days, since the way back days, and some of the situations that have been coming out, I've started to notice a reoccurring pattern, right? So we had 2nd edition, and then we had 3rd edition, and then 3.5, and then 4th edition, and then 5th edition, right? So people know that, right? What people don't realize is from 2nd edition, there was a lot of animosity. Things were happening during TSR's reign that was bad and rough, and 3rd edition, I believe in 3rd edition, that's when they got sold over to Wizards of the Coast, was because of what was going on with TSR and how badly it was being run. And then in 3rd edition, they had 3, and then 3.5, the errata, the change, right? And then Wizards of the Coast was doing so well, and then Wizards of the Coast, something terrible happened, and 4th edition came out, and 4th edition was not the terrible thing that happened. What happened was 3.5 and 3rd edition were doing gangbusters. They were amazing. It was doing very well. 3.5 was so popular. It was just destroying things, right? Now, other people can argue, you have Vampire the Masquerade that came out, and that also pulled a lot of people, but that was a different system. It wasn't the high fantasy fighting game. It was more of an intrigue vampire kind of like system, and stuff like that. But the Wizards got greedy. Wizards of the Coast got greedy, And what they wanted to do with their systems was to create this kind of like online presence. And that's why 4th edition was the system that it was. 4th edition, there was like an online component that a lot of people forget about because the technology wasn't there and the world wasn't ready for it. But during this time, World of Warcraft was out. MMOs were very popular, and they tried to catch that fire, and it did poorly. 4th edition did poorly. Now, 4th edition, I've gotten to play. They have some great mechanics in there, some really cool ideas. It's not a terrible system. It's not great because it expects you to be constantly playing on some kind of grid or map system. Not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people have the money for miniatures and such. Now, we know what happened in 4th edition. And in 2014, 5th edition was released and blew up. We know we're here now, right? So 4th edition, 5th edition blew up. Boom, great, thumbs up. What happened? Well, Wizards of the Coast had to get bought out because 4th edition did so bad that it got bought out by Hasbro. Hasbro was like, hey, we'll front you the money and, come up with a better edition. And people who love the game system came up with a great system. I personally think 5th edition is one of the better systems out there currently, and it has great mechanics. But I am also a huge fan of change because if we don't have change, we get stagnant, and that's not good. You get bloat, and that's a problem. 5th edition has been around for a very long period of time. You have lots of bloat added on. You have a lot of third-party supplements, a lot of its own supplements changing its own rules, and that's hard. So that's why I always feel that there's usually an edition change. An edition change comes when there's too much bloat and they need to rein it all back in and kind of add new mechanics and change the system in general. Now, what has come out? D&D 1. D&D 1 came out and they started doing their stuff, their playtests, and everyone was very excited and it was all hunky-dory. And then Hasbro started talking about, hey, we're going to make this VTT. Hey, we're going to make this VTT. Hey, we're going to make this VTT, virtual tabletop. Then what did they do? They had D&D. We all know what happened, right? There was tons of information. There was the whole debacle, right? Like, I'm not going to rehash it. That hurt them greatly. And we now know a lot of people kind of broke off from that. And this is my thing. They did their rounds. They had their guy, their front man, walk around and go to every other creator and give them the same sob, I'm sorry. Steve, cue up the I'm sorry from South Park because that fits this. Like, just put it over me. Just, I'm sorry.
Hello, I'm Tony Hayward, President and CEO of BP. Our accidental drilling spill again in the Gulf is a tragedy that should have never happened. And to all those affected, I want to say, we are deeply sorry.
And that is what they have been doing. I'm sorry. Then they were like, hey, we're listening. We're going to have all your favorite creators come see us. And all their favorite creators went there. And a lot of people talk smack about the creators and saying that they were shills and they were shilling for the man and the suits. And at first I got mad. I got mad when I saw certain creators going back and talking with D&D and talking to their front man and getting all the sob story of how we didn't understand it was going to hurt the community this bad. Yada, 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 XYZ. Keep lying to me. I got mad. I saw that and I was like, yo, what? Like, why are we talking to this dude? We know where they stand. They don't stand with us. They stand against us. And then they said, hey, come through. And I let it go. I didn't complain. I was not part of the people who had sour grapes. I'm not mad. They went. If I got the invitation, I would have went too. And those creators had questions. Did the people in Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have the answers? No, they just wanted to talk about their VTT, and that was it. And look at what's coming out. The reason why they're getting rid, and I heard someone talk about this, and I said, hey, that's actually really smart. The reason why they're getting rid of certain concepts, such as half-elf, half-orc, and stuff like that, and changing it from race to lineage and blah, 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 and moving away from certain, like, additions, like, we're not playing, we know, Vecna's coming, and then that's the edition change, and usually something terrible happens between edition changes, and now we're going to be playing in the multiverse and jumping from multiverse to multiverse to multiverse. That's the way they kind of set up the next story of Dungeons and Dragons. And the reason why they're doing that is because if they're playing in the Forgotten Realms, they're playing in Ed Greenwood's world and the writers that came before him. The reasons why we're not getting Dragonlance stuff is because that's not theirs. That's Tracy Hickman's, and they can't play in those worlds. The reason why they can't do that isn't because they don't want to, or the writers wouldn't love to work in those worlds. And sure, there are problematic situations, but that can be fixed. And, you know, we can still play in those worlds, just not have that stuff there. The reason why they're not doing that is because they can't copyright any of that stuff. Yes, they own the copyright, but they still need to give royalties to and rights to other people. And also, if those creators come out and they're like, "Yo, this isn't what we wanted," or, you know, Tracy Hickman, they got signed on to write, and D&D dropped them because they weren't cool. They still sued D&D. They got their money and they were able to publish their book. And I actually got it. I got it on audiobook, and it was a great book. I loved the Dragonlance novels and stuff. So for me, it was great. Like, I enjoyed it. Ended abruptly. I didn't like that, but that's besides the point. But the reason why you got rid of the half races is they can't copyright that. You know what they can copyright? Tiefling. You know what they can copyright? Aasimar. You know what they can copyright? Furblog. That stuff, Beholder. That stuff they own the right to, and that's money. And that's all this comes down to, and that's what makes me so mad and just irate. The stuff they're doing is blatant, and they got in trouble. They got caught with their pants down about the whole debacle of them trying to strong arm the little guys, right? Strong arm them out of tons of money because they were the bigger evil corporation, and they still are the bigger evil corporation. Yeah, they moved it. Oh, happy days. They moved it. Sorry, I'm just so upset. They moved it to the Creative Commons, and like anyone can use it. Yay, thumbs up. Cool. I'm excited for that, but they know better. They have their lawyers looking at everything, and they're going to nickel and dime us out of everything. You want to know the reason why they couldn't give the people, the creators, the price range for the VTT is because it's exactly this. It's going to be another subscription that you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to probably you can choose to pay for D&D Beyond base level. Then you can get, and base level, you probably play in the VTT, but you're not going to be able to, like, oh, you want those fancy dice? Give me that $5. They're ready to do $1.99. Do you want those fancy character sheets? $5.99. Give me that $5.99. It's all going to be microtransactions. Then for the VTT, they're going to say this. This is what they're going to say. They're going to say, hey, listen, if you have D&D Beyond, all your books get brought on, right? All that stuff gets brought on. Cool. Thumbs up. XYZ. Bet. Now, oh, do you want to run one of our modules? Here's the module. You can buy it, and it will be in the VTT. Do you want to change the location? You can't, because you have the base subscription. You want to upgrade that subscription? Sure, and that allows you to make your own stuff and mess around and create dungeons, and you can only have one dungeon, though, for the next level up. Oh, you get the next level up from that, and you're spending $99.99 a year. You know, it's probably going to be close to, I want to say, in my head, it's probably going to be like $160 a year for the gold tier, top tier, dragon tier, whatever tier, the highborn tier, whatever you want to call it. And that it's going to probably be closer to maybe the 100 to high end 160, but I think it's going to probably be closer to maybe 120 a year. Right? They're just going to say, yo, just give us 120 a year, and then you can have the high tier. And the high tier is going to let you do a number of things the low tiers can't. It's going to have a lot of cool features in it. But they're still going to nickel and dime you. Oh, do you want your spells to change color? That's this spell pack. Oh, you want your dwarf to look like a Duergar? That's this dwarf Underdark pack. You want to play this? Or you want this armor, we are going to get nickel and dimed. And that's the reason why they couldn't explain anything to you, because they knew if they said anything, there'd be a massive backlash. Now, here's another reason, another crazy thing. They just came out and they said, yo, we're not changing the name. We're not changing the name of D&D 1. It's not D&D 1. It's not D&D Beyond. It's not D&D Next, Evolution, whatever. It's going to stay. They said, we're just going to call it D&D 5th edition. Why? because if you type D&D1, you get all the OGL issues that come up on YouTube. You do it now, just on YouTube, type D&D1, and you're gonna get all the OGL stuff coming up. So they couldn't do that. Then people still had D&D next. Like, people knew that, and they put those hashtags in, and that's gonna come up. And it's just every time someone types D&D, not 5e, you're gonna get all the naughty stuff that they did, and it's gonna come up. And I'm telling you this right now, that's the reason why they're not changing the name. They might just call it Dungeons and Dragons, flat out, so that you just have to write Dungeons and Dragons in YouTube or when you search in Google, because they know if you search D&D 1, D&D Beyond, D&D whatever, and they claim, yeah, we know, like, people don't like it when they said, oh, in their stuff, people don't like it when you add numbers and stuff to editions or change editions, because then they have to think, they feel they need to buy something. They already said they're yeah, everything's backwards compatible, so then why do I need to buy your new edition? And they did say this, and even to this is the crazy part. They said the stuff from 2014 is still legal in the stuff for 2024, and that's just mind-blowing. Because why then would I play my stuff? Why would I buy the 2024 stuff? There's no reason to, because I know they're not going to make the monster encounter stuff balanced. That's not balanced. They couldn't do it in 5th edition. They're not going to do it. What's the big changes? They're going to change the weapons. Probably going to change armor slightly. We know they added a mastery system in the weapons, where I believe it's fighters, barbarians, and monks, and another martial class, maybe paladins, can like access these special abilities weapons get. First off, if you want to have this conversation, Pathfinder 2nd edition already did that, but that's besides the point. Secondly, they got rid of the masterwork system, which in the playtest they got rid of it for 5th edition, but there originally was, because I in the playtest for 5th edition there was a masterwork system. I remember playing with that, and it was removed because people didn't want it. But that's something they could have just easily added back in for the next updated. And here's the thing, they could go and say, oh, D&D 5 is basic and D&D 5.5 is advanced, right? Go back to the old school concepts. They're not. This is, and then they even said they're going to release stuff from Tasha's and Mordenkainen's, because not right now, it's not in the main book, but it's going to come out later for the 2024 stuff. This is what gets me, and this is what bothers me the most. It's so obvious. I'm not mad they're changing editions. This isn't me ranting about edition changes. This is me mad because they're delaying the inevitable. They're delaying on what and how bad it's going to be for us, the community. And I'm telling you this now, this is me, Chicken Little, screaming, the sky is falling, because it is in our community, and it's going to hurt all of us when it drops on our heads. And I'm telling you this because they have no idea. The people there, the suits, and that's what they are, they're just suits, are only there to make money for the megacorp, for Hasbro. And the moment it doesn't, we're going to get dropped like a ton of bricks. They're going to forget about the VTT. They're not going to put out support, because I've been burnt enough times. I played Anthem. Look that game up. That game got dropped like a ton of bricks because they were like, people didn't like it. They didn't want to put in time to fix it. And I've been burnt by other games before, and in video games, and now I see it happening in this, because that's what megacorps do. They don't care about the community. They're going to use us and drain us of everything that we have as a community, and then they're just going to drop us. And that's what they're going to do. Look at what's happening in the Magic the Gathering community. They're draining the heck out of that community, and they're going to do the same thing to our community. We need people to go back in there who love the game, who love the system, to create more for us. They are hiring people who don't care about the community, that don't come from us, that don't want to see that thrive. And I don't care, they could come out and say whatever they want. They don't. Because the moment they had the creators and the creators were asking questions, they didn't have answers for the creators because they thought that the creators were going to go there like mice and just eat up all the cheese they were giving them. That they were lemmings and they were going to get led there and listen to the grand poobahs.
I have spoken. Has anyone anything to say?
You're out of your cotton picking mind.
Talk about how awesome the VTT is, and all the creators were going to bask in the glory that is Wizards of the Coast. Oh, don't you feel it? It's radiant. No, but the creators were like, hey, man, nah, that's not cool. How much is this? Is this backwards compatible? This, and this. What are the specs like? Yada, yada, yada. They don't listen to us. People have come out. Third-party creators have done a better job at creating better updates for their system than they are. And when people explain it to them, they don't listen because they don't care. To them, we're just walking dollar signs, and I'll never forget it, and I'm never going to stop letting them forget it. And I don't care if I die on this hill. This is the hill I want to die on because I want to make sure this game is here for my niece, for my sons, you know, for my goddaughter, for all the people out there who have yet to get a chance to play. I want to see them play. I want to see them come back. I want to take them through dungeons, and I want to see them struggle, and I want to see their little faces light up when they win, and they win on their own terms with a good system, with a system that they're happy to play and create amazing memories. And again, I'm not against edition changes. What I am against is bad edition changes, and that's what they are doing. This is just a bad, it's 2024 is coming up very fast. We are almost summer of 2023. 2024 is right around the corner. And sure, I could be wrong, but why does it always seem that the people who love the games mod the game and make it amazing always do more for that, the modding community, right? And that's what I'm going to start I'm calling, the Skyrim modding community is amazing. They come out with a lot of cool stuff. The same thing, the third-party creators here are the modding community for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And they come up with amazing stuff constantly. And what was the first thing Hasbro tried to do? Take you all out. And that's what bothers me. The stuff that came out of that Content Creator Summit, it's terrible, gives me no faith and shows that they are just trying to blindside us, that this is all a scam. And sure, you could say whatever. You could be like, Jared, you're a crazy GM. Jared, you're outside your mind. No, I'm not. Look at other companies. Look at smaller companies coming out with stuff. Look at what Matt Colville is coming out with. I'm excited to see this stuff. I don't do Patreon a lot. I signed up to his Patreon because I'm excited to see what he's putting out forward. I'm excited to see what Cobalt Press is coming out with. I'm excited to see this stuff. It comes out in little drips and drabs. Excited to see that stuff. I want to see more and more. I'm excited for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. I know it's not a D20 system. Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Excited to see more and more editions. Transformers, the last few videos we had up about a Transformer tabletop role-playing game. I love tabletop role-playing games because it gives me an avenue to express myself and who I am in a million different worlds. And that's what Dungeons & Dragons has always been. It's been an ability for me to express myself and my friends who at times could not express themselves in society because they would be othered, but now they were able to in this game. And that's what bothers me the most, is that we're being nickel and dimed, we're being shafted, and to see what they're doing and no one else is mad, how am I the only one mad? I'm just furious. I'm extraordinarily furious. And is it that so much stuff has happened to us as humans in the last two generations between millennials and Gen Zs? We lived through a global pandemic, multiple financial crisis. But is it because we've had so much negative stuff happen to us that we become apathetic to our own communities and we no longer want the best for each other? Have we just been trained to just go after each other because someone slightly thinks a little bit different than I do? Is that what's happening? And that's the reason why we're getting stuff like this, where it's just apathy. It's apathy from these corporations. They don't care about us. And that's what bothers me the most. And I know I don't rant, and I try to make this channel as fun as possible. I try to put out reviews and be awesome and think things are awesome and be happy so that you can watch these videos and be happy like me that we're together getting to play these tabletop games, because we live in an age where now, and I'll say this, I'm not against virtual tabletops. I got to play with players from all over the world. I got to play with people from France, from South Africa, from Australia, from New Jersey. That's a different world. If you're from New York, you know what I'm talking about.
Name's Vasilek, Polish national. Had his head chopped off in New Jersey 2 nights ago. You ever get over to New Jersey, Nash?
Not if I can help it.
Right? From California, I get to talk and play with these amazing people from all Canada, all around the world, Mexico, and I love it. I get to, it's so amazing. And yet, I'm seeing something I love get burnt. And was this what it was like for 4th edition, for the people who are hardcore 4th edition people, for our third 3.5 into 4th edition? Was this what you felt like when you saw what was coming and then you got burnt? And then thank God for Paizo, because they kept it moving, right? Like I'm just dumbfounded by what's happening, and it makes me upset because I love this game. I love this system. I love the communities it's brought forth. I love the inclusion that it brings out in people, and that we get to have these awesome conversations and create these amazing stories. I love the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I'll say it right here. I thought it was amazing. I didn't cry. Only because I'm a heartless monster, but I laughed really hard, and I think the acting was amazing, and the story was exactly what I wanted it to be. It was campy, and it was silly, and there was a part where the barbarian's like, hey, we'll shoot an arrow into the window, and the bard's like, hey, what if it hits the person we're trying to save? And then they were like, well, the barbarian was like, well, hopefully it doesn't. And I've had that conversation, that exact conversation at my table. That's why I like Dungeons and Dragons movie, but that's what I'm trying to say. There's so much that's amazing, and yet I'm watching this kind of like deteriorate, and I don't understand it. They're getting rid of the concept. If you follow Nerd Immersion, obviously you probably do. If you're following MVNG, we are kind of like, they focus on a lot of D&D stuff, but like they talked about how they're getting rid of those schools of or like the class Primal, Divine, and Arcane. That they're getting rid of that concept for D&D revised, advanced, whatever you want to call it, the 5.5, and they're getting rid of that. And I was like, why? They're getting rid of stuff that's important, that's like really important, not just to the game, but to like how you build a character. If I want to play a druid, I deal with that. If I'm a ranger who focuses heavily on nature, that would be a part of me. The primal is a part of me. Even the barbarian, the totem of the bear, like the animal totem, that's primal magic. That's part of my character. I can use that to build these amazing characters. I feel like, why get rid of that stuff? And like Nerd Immersion talked about that. They had tweets and stuff. They were saying they're getting rid of that concept. You know, there's so much that they're removing that's important to the game, that this looks like, and I'm not against making the game better and easier and more accessible for people. To me, it looks like they're just trying to make more money. And that, yes, they're a corporation that have mouths to feed, XYZ. I understand that. They don't care. I want to see, again, we have content creators in the community who are doing amazing work, and why aren't they coming to content creators? Why haven't I seen content creators being tapped for information, for advice, for how to create better systems in revised, whatever, 5th edition next, or 5.5, whatever you want to call it, right? Why am I not hearing that that's coming out and touching base with these content creators, these amazing content creators, and saying, hey, we see that you do a lot of stuff. Would you like to work with us as maybe a to bring in ideas? Is that something you would want to do? Because I'm 100% sure, you know, if content creators were getting tapped for that, they would be, yes, they do have to sign NDAs. They can't talk about exactly what they're putting out, but I'm 100% sure they would be the first people on the pipes saying, hey, listen, I'm working with them. We're actually doing a lot of great things. We're not hearing that. You know what's bad? The whole OGL stuff got broke because someone in the community in D&D was like, yo, this is so bad, I have to tattle. But we're not hearing content creators being tapped for information. You know, even like what some of the things people complain about. Hey, we don't have enough lore. that's something, well, that bothers me. Like, I'm a lore guy, right? So I love listening to lore YouTube channels, right? Jordan, without Jordan with the PH. I love their channel. I listen to the lore stuff all the time, you know? And they're not being tapped for giving them tons of information. You know, hey, let's go back to lore. How do we make this lore accessible? How do we make it smaller and easier to condense? Our community is not being tapped for help. They're keeping this all in house. There's a reason why they're keeping it all in house, because I have doubts on what it's going to look like if they're not touched. If what's coming out from the Content Creator Summit is evident of where they're moving, this is just, again, Hasbro, the Super Corp, not caring about us, the community. And that's what we're not seeing. They're not touching base with any of us. And I don't expect them to come to me. I don't want them to come to me. I don't think any of my ideas are that great. Personally, I wouldn't know what to fix to begin with in 5th edition. There's a lot of things wrong with it. There's some things I would put in, like a basic knowledge check. That should be like an action that they should have in the system. That would be my one thing, like as a bonus action. Give players more bonus actions, right? As a bonus action, you can make a knowledge check on a monster to get some kind of information. Not like their AC and stuff like that, but just information. But you know why you can't do that? Because the monster manual is terrible. All the monster manuals are terrible. But the one I got, you know, the monster manuals I get from third-party creators are amazing. There's tons of lore. Where is it? I had one from Ghostfire Games, and it had so much lore in every monster. It was amazing. And what's something else we all talk about? Hey, you know, what about crafting? Can we put in a crafting system? People have done crafting systems. There are tons of YouTube videos where people have homebrewed crafting systems. There are amazing ways to do crafting. Then they even came out with, in Strixhaven, you can work in a cafe as like a supplement, and they didn't even have a crafting system in that. They had like almost like a crafting system, but they didn't even have like an in-depth crafting system. So with all that heat off my chest, I want to say this. Never forget, this community is our community. We work together to build a better community and a better tomorrow. And that's why I'm here. That's why I made NVNG, is to work together with you out there, the listeners, to build a better community for all of us to play in. And I want to see the best for everyone. And that's all I want for everyone out there, is the best for all of us. And if that's the one thing you take away from this, is we are working together to make something greater.